Hey everyone, we have NoWayItsJ, who's going to be taking us through his Golem dervish type looking Vitruvian deck that he played in the DWC Open, and just going to be watching a game from that against Mesa in the background as we kind of go through the cards. So, what kind of led you to want to do golems? What card attracted you to that archetype in the Bonds expansion?
I just really like tempo swarmy decks. So when you can play metal or just in a bunch of new early cost golems that don't suck, like the 3/2 golem previously, when you could play actual golems that are playable by themselves, I think it's just such a cool idea to just play a bunch of small minions that you could swarm out faster metal or just and just have this huge lead, which then Vitruvian has Oasis to buff up and make them even more threatening. Um, the the other thing that caught my eye was Goalie in this deck. I don't really care for other Golem decks, but with Vitruvian specifically, it has so much synergy. It has Third Wish, Dunecaster, it has Fire Obelisk, it has whatever you want on top of Golem synergy.
Right, because yeah, you can count it as a dervish, so it kind
Yep.
of combos with a lot of the other things,
Yeah, it has
which
a lot of synergy. I like it, and it's pretty good stats too.
which is yeah probably why you have Dunecaster on a list that only has packs to produce dervishes other than the Ghoulie. It looks like. So you kind of just start off with the first wish. That's pretty standard. Next up, we have Dream Shaper. That's the 2/2 that draws two cards. In my playing of a similar deck, I found that to be kind of like one of the biggest draws because you can kind of just go all out swarm and sort of always have a full hand. Is that something? Did you find that that was just a key card in your list, or what did you think of that card?
Yeah, Dream Shaper is definitely a reason to play Golems. It was good. It wasn't as good as I thought it would be, but it gave me enough cards by the time I'd won it. Like by 5 or 6 mana, I actually had a bunch of people complaining that I didn't run enough golems, but by 5 or 6 mana, it's like a 95% chance to have a golem with Dream Shaper to go off. So yeah, it did its job of getting me more cards to swarm with, but it wasn't as good as I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it acts as kind of a 1 or 2 mana Divine Spark, which really kind of makes the card Divine Spark look pretty bad. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah. In that regard, it definitely looks broken, but yeah, it's pretty.
and then you have the Dunecaster. So did the Dunecaster? I mean, was that good with just? I mean, your Bloodborne spell, Pax, and Ghoulie. So you only have 5 cards plus your Bloodborne spell. Was that enough to make it work?
For Dreamcaster?
Yes. Yeah, Dunecaster.
Oh, yeah, I've always considered Doomcaster a staple if you run at least one card other than Bloodborne spell, because I think Rasha Doomcaster is one of the most broken combos in the game. On top of that, Goalie is another synergistic card, and I think Bloodborne spell by itself with Doomcaster is good enough. Like a 4/4 for 3 mana plus a 2/1 body is pretty good. Even if it's slow, it's still pretty good if you have like at least a tiny little bit of other synergy.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the curse too. It's also very good with that. So then you went second wish. Now this is kind of just a pretty standard card when you're playing a swarm archetype. Kind of just makes all of your minions kind of a threat. Um, and they sometimes they can be hard to remove if you gain board control because your opponent has to sink a spell. Can't really just trade off with the general. How did those perform for you? Did you Were you happy with how that worked out?
Yeah, Second Wish is one of the main reasons I think Vet is really close to Lionar Golems, because even, I played this in Team Wars, the Vet list, and I played Second Wish on a minion versus Vanar, and they couldn't clear it the entire game, so it just went by itself. It's just such, and they couldn't even enfeeble it because they can't clear it. It was just such a really good card. In the open, it's one of the main reasons that Vet has a slight advantage to Lionar, because it actually has a good matchup against Vanar because all the buffs are dying wishes. You could just get enfeebled and then just buff them up with second wish or whatever, and start beating up the Vanar player. Um, it also combos with Saber Spine to do a really insane combo like turn 2 or 3, which is really difficult to deal with if you went like Pax or something and have a already established board. So I think it's one of the better cards to run. Hello.
sorry. So you're only running two Falkius. Why did you decide to shave on that when it's often considered one of the best cards in Vitruvian, if not the entire game?
Oh, sorry, could you repeat the question you cut out for me?
Oh, sorry, brother. Yeah, I was just wondering about Falkius. You're only running two, and it's considered one of the better cards in Vitruvian. Why did you decide to shave those? Was it just a lack of synergy with the rest of your deck?
Oh, I've never been that big of a fan of Falsius. I think it's always been overhyped. I didn't even run it at all in a lot of my old Vitruvian list. It's still decent right now since it's a tempo deck and I have no other real damage cards other than Blood Tier, so it helps sometimes. But I actually considered cutting it after the open I played in because I never really did anything. It was just damage most of the time, and I'd rather have another Rasha or something over it. Um, it was okay. It just wasn't. It doesn't really do anything other since there's not like 4/4s or anything other than Owl Beast, which they don't play in your face anyway to clear. It doesn't have like a purpose really other than face.
So would you consider switching it with maybe a third Ghoulie or something? If you were
Yeah,
to make some
I would
changes?
definitely play a third Rasha or a third Blood of Air or maybe a Sirocco. I've never been that big of a fan of Sirocco either. I tried it in my original list, but I cut it for Amar because Sirocco just loses the Frostburn, which is played in the best deck right now. It loses the Tempest, which is played in the second best deck right now. It loses the Plasma Storm, which is played in the third best deck.
And that Sorogo, that's the 4/3 that summons the Skyrocks.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So in Oasis, I found this was one of the keys. If you can sort of get the Golem Swarm, a lot of them kind of low health, but if you get the inner Oasis down, that's kind of the tipping point a lot of the time to having a board that dies to a lot of things to a board that's very hard for your opponent to clear. How good was that in this deck? Did it perform as well as expected, or were you disappointed by it?
Yeah, in these type of swarmy template decks, I think 5 draw, like actual draw cards, is kind of needed, at least 5. So Oasis is my 4th and 5th draw card, because it basically uses your whole turn, so it counts as draw. But on top of that, it just makes uh, awkward hands that people would call awkward, like Pax Triple Blood Tier or something. It makes them into really devastating hands. Like if you go Pax Blood Tier, Doomcaster, Bloodlord spell or something, and then Oasis all that, you basically just win. It just creates such an unwinnable position from your opponent if you Oasis at least 3 things. And then on top of that, it counters Enfeeble, like straight up. If they Enfeeble you, you just make a bunch of 1/4s, and then you buff them up with First Wish later, and they're really scary.
Now you sort of touched on this, but is there sort of like a threshold that you aim for when you play this card? Like if you just have like if say your Pax breaks and you just have the two twos, would you ever just run it out to make 2/5s, or do you like to save it to get more value, or is it just a very situational type of thing?
Uh, I think it depends on the situation, but just using it on 2/2/2s from packs is still a really good turn. Like a turn 2 Oasis on that for 2/2/5s is a really pretty. It's a pretty good turn, and then it fills your hand up to look for more options for combos and stuff. So I think it's okay to do that.
Okay. So then you have the new Blood of Air, which is it finally gives Vitruvian some ranged removal, which a lot of people had been kind of clamoring for. How good was that, and what was the things you were trying to target? What things did it hit that were that you saw in the meta?
Um, I, in particular, nothing really. I just ran it as my dispel since I didn't want to run Shroud because it just was kind of weak. I felt Shroud was. But it actually performed a lot better than I thought. Like I already thought it would be broken because I just look at it in a theory sense and I just think it's broken. But after in play, like it just did so much. Like it cleared Owl Beast by himself and then it did damage, so it got him even lower for my Saber Spines later. And it also cleared Amaras for me. It cleared everything. It's just such a good card. My favorite thing about it though is that it also synergizes with Doomcaster.
Oh yeah, that's another synergy I missed. You can use it with the Wind Dervish that comes out of that too if you're on 7 mana. So there's kind of a couple of sneaky synergies with that Dunecaster. And then you just had healers. When we tested Golem that we had been kind of going back and forth between Healer and Star's Fury. What landed you on the Healer? What decks did you want to provoke against?
Um, for decks like this, I always feel like people don't understand what the deck's supposed to do whenever they put stuff like Plasma Storm or Star's Fury in their decks, because you shouldn't be running Mass so much in the tempo deck, because you should be the one with the board advantage. You shouldn't really need to come back with a card like that uses your entire turn. So I don't think Star's Fury is very good in this, since you should be forcing them to do stuff, not the other way around. And then Amar Healer, I kind of wanted something to ramp into, because Celebrant's kind of useless most of the time. I honestly just skip mana like every single time with Lionar. So then I kind of wanted something good to ramp into sometimes. I never actually got to play it, but it's a good card against other tempo decks.
Okay, yeah, we were running and actually this is maybe a reasonable question as to why you didn't run it. The 4/3, I don't think it's Ferox. The 4/3 that buffs all tribal minions.
Oh yeah, that's Feraloo, I think.
Feral. Okay, yeah, that's it. So actually, just quickly, did you test that at all? Because it does buff a good portion of your deck. Did any consideration towards that, or was that a little bit too squishy to sort of include?
Yeah, I forgot about that. After thinking about that, I think Falcius being cut for Feraloo is better than Actually, I think I would Russia first, but Feraloo definitely is better than Falcius. I think it has so much synergy, especially if your Bloodborne spell, it makes 3/3s, which is extremely good. I think it's good enough to run at least one or two of. I don't know about three though.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were doing it with Star's Fury, and we also had the
Yeah.
Skyrock, so maybe there was extra synergy. But it works good with Rasha's too, and Bloodivet. It pumps both of those things. And of course, it pumps all your golems, and then yeah, anything that comes out of packs, just all the dervishes. So kind of both ways. And then finally, you just have the saber spines. Is that just extra burst damage? And also, I know in Vitruvian it goes really well with the wish spells because it kind of lets it stick around and sort of do double damage. Or with the second wish, if they can't clear it, it ends the game pretty quickly. Any special reason for those, or just strong overall card type of situation?
It's both a strong overall card for the type of deck this is, because it closes out the game whenever you need damage, but it also synergizes with the whole deck because you have so many buff cards that it just gets out of control.
Okay, and then sort of your matchups. What matchups did you think were you targeting with this, and what were you struggling with?
Um, I feel like it does good versus most everything, like Lionar, other than originally I thought it lost to Fey too, like Lionar, but it actually has a pretty good matchup. It's one of the few things that makes it better than the Lionar list. I think Lionar is better overall, but this one has actual good Fey matchup. Like you have Dying Wishes to play around in Feeble, you have buff cards to play around in Feeble, um, and you have Swarm cards to play around individual removal. So I just think it's good in that regard. But for particular counter matchups, I think it does good versus pretty much the entire field, other than like Plasma Storm decks and stuff like that.